Why don't we start with what you think the problems with AI are?
Yeah.
The main one I go to see a lot of people where the board are saying we've got to choose AI. AI is really important, but they don't always know what that means. And they're saying that because they've seen the podcast by Google or somebody saying Traverse saying AI is the thing you should be using when it isn't the thing to use for everything. So I think it starts with everybody wants to use it. Nobody's quite sure where it's useful for. So everybody's using it for everything with mixed results. And I think that's where, it has to change.
Yeah, I mean, people need a bit more direction, don't they, rather than just use AI. And that's all they're hearing from the boards, I think. So
no one knows where to use it. We've got 90% of them failing because everyone's just trying to apply it wherever it goes.
Well, it's evolved,
every single aspect of the job.
If you look what we did, we started maybe 8 years ago on Gen AI, got some results, it worked really well, and then agentic AI has come out, and everybody said this is absolutely amazing.
Yeah.
But actually, most of the benefits are probably from not agentic AI, from just using AI in really sensible ways. It doesn't have to be an autonomous, amazing. If it does 80% of a job, that's enough, and eventually it might do 100%. Today it does.
Yeah.
It does 80, and that's great.
A really important part of it is applying it where you're okay with the risk of it doing something you're not happy with. So AI will always make decisions that you're not happy with. So you've got to have a person in the loop. You've got to have a person accountable for what it outputs, really.
Yeah, because I think the thing is, it's really deceiving, isn't it? So you look at it, you're either terrified of it and you don't use it, and then one day you try it, and you try something and you try to write a program and it does it in one shot. And you think, this is amazing, it's going to replace every job on the planet within 10 minutes and it's fantastic. Yeah. And then you try it for the second problem and the second problem doesn't work and the third one doesn't. And then you try something that takes 80 prompts before you get the right answer. And then you say, AI doesn't work at all. Yeah. And a number of people say, I tried and it didn't work. But the answer is there's a way to use it and there's a path to knowing how to use it that you have to kind of understand and go down.
Yeah, and both sides of that are dangerous. You get people that get really lucky and they're convinced it'll do anything for them. You get a lot of people that have tried it, failed the first time, they never use it again. So the key thing is just treating it as a tool, like it is.
Yeah.
Learning how to make the most of it.
Yeah, and finding the right use case. Because it's like when you were saying about the 80%, you might find it works for 80% of things. Still got to find the right scenario to get to that 80%.
Yeah, you don't know which 80%. It's like if you knew which 80% would work, that would be great, but you don't know which 80% it is. So I had a program that actually Tom wrote 8-10 years ago. So I rewrote it one evening just for fun. Yeah. Tom did it originally, I rewrote it. And it really looked like it worked. And when I looked in the right in the code, there were some mistakes it had made that were just ridiculous, right in the middle of it. So it took me 10 minutes to fix it, but only because I knew how to fix it. Whereas if you start out as a vibe coding business person, then you try to fix it, you actually don't know. It looks like it's worked, but you never know all the edge cases where it doesn't work. So you can spend a lot of time building programs that look like they work and they're all failing silently. You haven't put all the checks and balances and recording and reporting in, and you end up in a mess. So that's something you've got to really be really careful of.
That's why people are still important.
I think people will. I mean, maybe people will all be automated one day, but I don't think it's going to happen with this current set of this transformer architecture. I think it will get better and better. But
AI just doesn't think. It's not given a goal. It will attempt to do it in this loop. It'll talk to itself. But at the end of the day, it's just taking all of your input and it's producing output that is best sort of weighted towards what it thinks.
And it's always hallucinated. It never. Yeah. The problem is you look at it and it does such amazing things. It does things you can never imagine anybody else do you didn't know. Yeah. And yet it still didn't think, it doesn't know.
Yeah.
And it hallucinates the answer, and whether it's right or wrong, you have no way of knowing. So, and I don't think it will always have to do that. I think the only thing will save it is more and more layers of tests and checks and balances, which is on top of the AI. There's guardrails and checks, but I don't think
There's human reviews.
I don't think it will ever just get so good it always does the job perfectly, because it never understands it.
Well, no, if you just speak into like a chat bot, it takes a lot of going back and forth, doesn't it, to chip away and get there. So,
and everybody's had the experience of you ask it something, it gives you an answer, it looks good, and then you look at it, it doesn't work, and then you say it didn't work, and then it says, absolutely right, it didn't work, how clever, thank you for spotting it. And then
it never would have got to that if you hadn't told it.
No.
But then you say, okay, thank you, correct it.
Yeah.
You say it didn't quite work, and it says, oh, you're absolutely right, oh, thank you for telling me. And 30 prompts later, you might get the right answer. But unless you know, this is the problem with juniors, that the fact juniors aren't being trained, so it's great for now. But in another generation, there'll be no juniors who understand it. And it's like using a calculator. You know, if you don't know how to do long division and your calculator breaks, you're in a mess. Whereas when AI gives you an answer and you don't know, you're not a technical programmer, then how on earth are you ever going to know whether it works?
Yeah.
So it's a real problem.
Is it not more though that it's not about like AI breaking? It's more if it's got it wrong, you won't know whether the answer's wrong.
Well, it doesn't break, does it? It hallucinates an answer based on, if it's got lots of training data, it'll probably hallucinate a really good answer, and if it hasn't, it might hallucinate a bad answer. And unless you understand that really quite deeply, how are you ever going to find, like I did that one line of code where it done something ridiculous that you would never do as a coder, but actually who will know that if they're not a developer?
Yeah, we've got the advantage of having slogged for ages without AI and having that knowledge, whereas future generations aren't necessarily.
So you got to the point now where knowledge, domain knowledge is really important.
Yeah,
coding knowledge is really important, and AI is the best helper we've ever had. It's the best worker, but it won't do your job at the moment. And I think if you're not building those skills up, you know, so you can. I mean, I just see a lot of people building solutions and saying, I spent 4 hours building a website and it works.
Yeah.
And then, but you know, where doesn't it work? And as you keep adding more and more, at some point, nobody can look at that code and fix it. And as long as you do enough tests and you're doing it the right way, that's probably okay. But if you don't know about that, then it's a problem.
It's a great tool to speed up the creation of the code. Like, I use it just to write all of my code because I can describe what I need really specifically. I think that's the key thing, is it will do almost exactly what you ask it if you word it correctly. If you give it all the context that it needs, it'll produce what you'd expect. And it's never the first shot. It's not just one go. It's then look at what it's done in detail and then go back.
So if you know how to solve the problem, it will do it quicker than you can. Exactly. If you don't know how to solve the problem, it might or might not.
Yeah.
And is a problem.